I'm Haylee Knippel, reporting for the Fort Lewis College Independent News Organization. Welcome to Fort Fuel. In campus news, this week is International Education Week. Stop by the Student Union today between 11 and 1 to get your henna tattoo, and at 3 and 7 in the ballroom, there will be the International Extravaganza, where there'll be free food, dance and martial arts demos, as well as lessons from abroad. Today on Fort Fuel, we welcome our guest, Jennifer Gay, Study Abroad Coordinator at FLC. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
We're so pleased to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about how you get started. What's the first step to studying abroad?
Well, the first step would be to either come into our office and just start to get some information, or to go to an info session. We have info sessions every week, and we have rotating times. You can always just come right outside our door in Jones Hall, room 106, and we'll give you some more information.
Great. And how many programs are offered to study abroad?
We have hundreds of different ways that students can study abroad. So students can study abroad using their Fort Lewis College tuition and fees on an exchange. That's oftentimes an affordable way to go when students are using financial aid or tuition waivers. We also use study abroad providers, and there are dozens of study abroad providers students can choose from. And then students can also do a direct enrollment if they have a specific institution that they have in mind.
Okay. Now, how many students from FLC would you say study abroad every semester?
Well, with all of the different ways that students can go abroad, we have a very active Engineers Without Borders chapter. We have other types of programs in addition to just individual study abroad programs. We have probably about 200 students per year that go abroad.
Wow, that's a lot. I wasn't expecting that number.
Yeah.
What do you think is the best time in a student's college career to study abroad if they're going for a whole semester or a whole year?
That's a good question. It always varies depending on the major and when the student comes to start to get the information and start planning. So a perfect example is if a student is coming to us as a senior, well, they're going to be looking at fewer options for what courses they could be taking abroad, and that's also going to narrow down where all they could go and how they could make that happen. But if a student comes to us when they're a freshman, then they can really be making some plans for how to make the most of their academic career and fitting study abroad into that. So there's not one answer. You have to be a sophomore standing at least to be able to study abroad. But within those 3 years, sophomore, junior, senior year, we've seen students go all of those different years. And sometimes they've spread that out over 2 years, because you can do up to 3 terms abroad. So,
Oh, wow.
A student who graduated last year, she studied abroad her sophomore year, and then she came back, did her junior year here, and then prepared to do her senior research abroad. So she did 3 separate terms abroad.
Wow, that is really cool.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you talked earlier about the Fort Lewis tuition and being able to study abroad for the same amount of money, but is that the only way that you can study for this about the same price, or can you study for less than it costs to go to Fort Lewis anywhere?
Sometimes you can find programs that are a little bit more affordable than paying the in-state tuition and fees at Fort Lewis College if you're going on the National Student Exchange. So that's not study abroad, but it's also a program that our office provides. And that's where students can go to several of the different, there are over 200 member universities that go all over the United States. And that also includes Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, Hawaii, Guam, and then there are some of Canada also participates. So on some of those programs, the way that they work that program is you either would pay your home school, your Fort Lewis College tuition and fees, and just go to the exchange school, or you would pay the in-state tuition and fees at that host school. And Puerto Rico is an example where sometimes their in-state tuition and fees is substantially lower than Fort Lewis's in-state tuition and fees, so it might be even cheaper than
Very
to
cool.
Fort Lewis.
Now, does studying abroad usually cause students to graduate late?
That is a big goal for us to avoid, and so we have 2 big myth busters that we really work on in the office, and that is that A, a student thinks that they can't afford it, or B, a student thinks that it's going to make them extend their studies abroad, extend their degree. And so if we work with students to plan early, then they should be able to meet degree requirements while they're studying abroad, and then that won't get in the way for them to graduate on a 4-year track.
Well, good. Well, studying abroad, I know, is definitely a really good option for students. So thank you so much for joining us today and giving us a little more information. That wraps up Fort Fuel. Be sure to head online for all your campus, sports, and community news, and head to the big yellow boxes on campus for our latest print issue. Thank you. I'm Haylee Knippel. Thank you for joining us, and have a pleasant tomorrow.